Welcome to Arena and SAP integration with OpenPDM. My name is Brian Schouten, Director of Technical Presales for PROSTEP Inc. And today we'll be walking through our solution for integrating Arena and SAP with our interoperability product OpenPDM. If you're not familiar with OpenPDM, it's been around for over 25 years, and the primary purpose is to bring data across the product lifecycle between different vendor systems. So in this case, Arena and SAP, but also supporting a wide variety of other systems. It's tuned and optimized for PLM processes, handling things like status, version, traceability, and it's flexible so that you can expand it to other use cases depending on what your needs are. PDM is designed to enable interoperability across your enterprise system landscape. So in this case, we'll be looking at SAP connectivity, Arena connectivity, and then in the middle, OpenPDM Process Server and the BPMN workflow engine. But you can see at the bottom the different types of domains that are supported. So that could be PLM and ERP like today, but also ALM and software systems, ECAD, requirement systems, MBSE, manufacturing, production systems, and other things across the product lifecycle. The high-level system architecture for this solution looks something like this. On the left-hand side, we have Arena that has a RESTful interface. On the right-hand side, SAP S/4HANA with a REST OData interface. And then in the middle, we have the OpenPDM integration application. That includes microservices for the Arena connector, the SAP connector, the BPMN workflow engine that you see there. That's the OpenPDM process service, as well as a mapping service. And these can all be configured for the specific customer business integration requirements or processes that you need. So there's a lot of flexibility to this, but then a lot of out-of-the-box component functions that enable you to then do the different transactions that are required. This can operate independent from Arena and SAP, either within your environment or hosted in the cloud. So it enables some flexibility, and it's not dependent on the end systems or installations within there in order to operate. The process for integration of Arena and SAP looks something like this, where first there's a trigger, and for this, that's the Arena change release. So after that change is then released, it'll instantiate in the background in the OpenPDM Process Server that integration workflow that's then maintained specifically for your integration. It'll then export the data from the Arena connector with the mapping service, map the data from Arena to SAP in an internal OpenPDM data format, and then import the data through SAP. So each of these different processes has some configurations to be able to tune it to your specific business needs, supporting attributes and different types and subtypes that are required for your specific processes. So let's show an example process in this synchronization. We start in Arena where we have an ECO that's been advanced to an effective state. That ECO has a small assembly with two components, and the Arena system has been configured for an integration queue for SAP. So you see here that the ECO has been advanced, and that has queued then that ECO for synchronization, and then it needs to be reconciled before it can move forward. OpenPDM is then pulling this to see if there's any new jobs that it can then start one of those BPMN processes in the background in order to synchronize. These processes have been deployed on the OpenPDM server for BOM transfer, for product transfer, and depending on your use case, can be adapted with different mappings or different business logic in order to accommodate what customizations or configurations you might have within the system or different process logic. So within the OpenPDM process engine, you see that these transactions are running. It's going to export the data from Arena, map the data, import the data into SAP, and then generate reports, send emails if necessary, depending on what your configurations are. We can take a look at the process instance as well. We see that different products were created. It took about 1.5 minutes in order to run the whole thing. And you can get a little bit more detailed view if you click within the process instance here too, in order to see the specific instance details, how long each task took, and what data was processed within there. You can get very granular within this construct. So we see clicking on activities, the sub-activities of the process, including all the different operations that need to happen in order to import the data into SAP, and the logs that go along with that. You can see kind of before and after mappings, as well as what's been created within the system in both a graphical view and a table view. So jumping into this, we can take a look at the table of what's been created in SAP. We see that there are products like this 2599 carrying a bunch of different attributes that are part of that need to be created. Maybe other things as well, the change, plant data, maybe some MRP data, depending on what your needs are. So we go back, we see that this has been completed and reconciled within Arena. So the process is complete. And then we can go into SAP and see the data that's been created there. So looking at the BOM, we have material 2599 that has the different components as part of that with the quantities and the change that's been created as part of this in order to carry that over. Also other attributes, basic data, MRP data, plant data, other things that are valuable or required data within SAP have been brought over. And you can define what those attributes might be and put those within the mapping or extend the process logic within the BPMN workflow in order to accommodate the different use case business processes that you might need within this type of synchronization. So this gives you a little bit of kind of an overview of the process and how it works within the systems, and hopefully this helps. So let's take a look at a few different components that make up this solution. One of them is the process modeler that then deploys the processes to the process server. This is where you can configure your workflows in order to fit the exact needs of your business. So we have out-of-the-box templates for Arena SAP for doing that product BOM change, deployment. And then what we can do is use the modeler in order to adapt it to your specific configurations. This is based on BPMN and can, version itself in order to create a history of the process itself so that you can kind of maintain that over time within the server. So with those processes created within the process modeler, you can deploy them to the process server and see them within the OpenPDM process cockpit. This gives you kind of an administrative overview, like you saw within the demonstration, of what's going on with any of the individual processes, detailed results, mapping. In the case that there's an error, you can see what the error might have been and be able to reconcile that to do some administrative analysis if there was any transactional issues. And it gives you an overview of KPIs and other things that are vital to administering and maintaining an integration solution. The OpenPDM Process Server then utilizes the OpenPDM connectors in order to import and export data. So this is an Arena PLM connector on the lower middle and the SAP connector on the upper middle that are used within this integration along with the process server. You can, with this, read and write data, right? Export and import data, It works at a very fine, granular level so that you can query for business objects and then expand relationships to kind of get the whole network of the data that's within the system. We do this by going through the official vendor API that then respects the usage of the system, like the customizations to the attribution, authentication, authorization of the data, so that we're not really going back to the database in order to circumvent those things. OpenPDM in about 2019 moved to a microservices architecture. So this enables deployment in like an on-prem environment or a private cloud, but also a PROSTEP provided iPaaS type solution. This is flexible in that you can replace just components and deploy it where you need to. And each of the different services like the connectors, the process server, the mapping engine, can each be independently maintained and distributed or have failover or parallelization for high performance, depending on the needs. Thanks for watching our Arena and SAP integration video, and remember that PROSTEP is here to help. We've got hundreds of consultants that have been doing this for a long time, got commercial, enterprise, field-tested software that can get you to a solution quickly. So if you got more questions or you'd like more information, send an email to infocenter@prostep.com. They can route you to the right people in order to get you the information you need. Thanks again.